Hello and welcome back to Boring Dead Gaming, where today we're going to be playing some more Tyrion Cuthbert, Arcane Attorney. We're about to head into the courtroom for another clash against Arya here, and try and prove the innocence of our client, Celeste. Let's do so. Will you remember them? I think he's been told what to say. This is the... I think he's the nobleman's driver. It says servant, but I think he's basically the chauffeur for the nobleman who actually did the murder. Yeah, I pride myself on my eidetic memory. Just so there are no more misunderstandings. I do not approve of this. You said it yourself, Lady Steelwind. There's no possible way that I could have done the deed. It has to be the bastard child. We don't know what sort of tricks Ruby Tamora might pull tomorrow. Just see this as a way of securing a just verdict. Okay, yeah, we'll save progress. I didn't realise that it would cut there. Otherwise I would have played on that little bit of dialogue. Anyway, it's time to go in. Alright, it's time. Hello, Cuthbert. Oh, hi, Miss Tamora. You're a lot less jumpy than you were yesterday. I'm glad to see that you're finally getting used to things. So, what did you find in your investigation? You tell Miss Tamora about everything you've learned over your investigation. There aren't a lot of clues that point to what actually happened. Yeah, I know a lot of details about the crime scene, but nothing about the crime itself. This means I'll have to rely solely on pointing out contradictions in the witnesses' testimonies. Being reactive to the prosecution's moves is a valid strategy. Honestly, I think it was a miracle that you got the commander to cooperate with you at all. Right, you almost forgot. Commander White appears to really have it out for Miss Tamora. Actually, I wanted to ask you about that. Did something happen between you and Commander White? Miss McCoy, please proceed to the courtroom of your counsel. Let's go, Tyrion. The trial's about to start. You should go. The judge is waiting. Right. Another secret is left buried between you two. Rhubarb. Court is now resumed for the trial of Celeste McCoy. Let us review the proceedings from yesterday. Yesterday, the defense presented some shocking oversights made during the investigation. Yes, I personally saw to it that the investigation was conducted properly this time. I see. I suppose that puts my mind at ease. At yesterday's trial, we found an inconsistency between the crime scene photo and the autopsy report. Because of this, the defense tried to push the following narrative, that a third party must have interfered with the crime scene to frame the defendant. However, the prosecution has discovered another explanation. Because of that, the individual who discovered the body would like to testify as to what he saw that night. His eyewitness account will clear up what actually happened. Yeah, interesting. It was my understanding that the individual in question wanted to remain anonymous. Supposedly, this witness was within the gallery at the trial yesterday. After yesterday's proceedings, he felt that he couldn't stay silent any longer. Is he going to be the merchant? So that's her plan. But why would the witness change his mind like that? Did Steelwind persuade him, or was something else happening here? Oh, it's got to be the chauffeur, right? Very well. Let's hear from this witness. Witness, please state your name and occupation for the court. My name is Reese Reginald Rudolph. I'm a chauffeur of the equine variety. Coach driver, yeah. I'm terribly sorry, but I'm unfamiliar with that profession. He means to say that he is a carriage driver. Oh, I see. But in any case, it is my understanding that you found the body. Am I correct, Mr. Rudolph? Rudolph appears to be writing something in a notebook. He writes with incredible speed. His pen only touches the paper for maybe a second before he's filled an entire page. What? That is quick. Mr. Rudolph? No, forgive me. I was merely taking notes of the people in this room. Taking notes? The witness has a certain compulsion to keep a record of every event that he witnesses. I see. Then I assume we will receive an accurate testimony of how you found the body. Actually, I witnessed much more than that. I saw the crime as it was being committed, and I wrote down everything that I saw. What? Oh, that is quite the claim. If that's true, why did you choose to remain silent until now? We had initially concluded that the evidence alone was decisive enough.
Therefore, we saw no need at the time for his testimony. However, those circumstances clearly changed during yesterday's trial. There's no way the prosecution wouldn't leverage eyewitness testimony from the start. Something else is happening here.
Very well. Mr. Rudolph, please testify to the court about what you saw that night.
Witness testimony.
I was transporting a client in my carriage that evening. We were driving by the McCoy Tavern when we heard a disturbance. This occurred at 1:28 a.m. Worried that something was amiss, I walked into the establishment to see what the commotion was about. There, I saw the defendant. She was lit by the blue glow of the dining room lights. She'd stabbed Flintheart McCoy and was channeling magic into her sword. She removed her sword from Flintheart's chest, and as he slowly turned to face her, she stabbed him again in the front. She soon realised that I'd witnessed her heinous crime, so she let the body fall to the ground and fled the scene. Incredible. If everything occurred as the witness described, then I see no room for debate.
Of course, the evidence has always been irrefutable. You don't remember seeing him when you left to look for Celeste. But it was pretty dark. Celeste, did you see this man that night?
No, this is my first meeting with him. And I didn't see him when I ran out of the tavern that night.
So he has to be lying.
Does that mean he's the one who killed my dad?
She tries her best to hide it, but you can sense her restlessness. It's hard to say right now, but it's definitely a possibility.
The defence may now begin their cross-examination.
Okay, so I was let's just press him on everything to begin with. I was transporting a client in my carriage that evening, so press him on that. Who was the passenger in your carriage?
The
identity of the passenger is irrelevant. The witness is the one who actually observed the crime as it occurred. If there was another person at the scene, they may also have crucial testimony. The passenger is under no obligation to testify before the court, and the current witness's account of the events is more than adequate.
Yes, I agree. I see no reason for Mr. Rudolph to disclose the identity of their client. The defence must present a more valid reason to do so.
Alright, press him on this statement. We were driving by the McCoy Tavern when we heard a disturbance occurred at 1:28 a.m. I'm assuming this disturbance was the argument between my client and her father.
Yes, I heard two voices, one young female and one gruff male. Presumably, these were the voices of Celeste and Flintheart McCoy.
Right, that matches up with what their neighbours heard too. What did you do after hearing this disturbance, Mr. Rudolph? So, worried that something was amiss, I walked into the establishment to see what the commotion was about, so we'll press him on that. You stopped your carriage in the middle of a job? Seems pretty abnormal for a carriage driver. What did your passenger think of this?
Oh, he had no quarrel with it.
What kind of passenger would be okay with stopping mid-drive? The passenger's thoughts on the matter are irrelevant to his testimony, unless you have any hard evidence to prove otherwise. Now then, please tell us what you saw in the establishment, Mr. Rudolph. There I saw the defendant. She was lit by the blue glow of the dining room lights. Which we know weren't lit. She had stabbed Flintheart McCoy and was channeling magic into a sword. We'll still press him on all his statements before we circle back and try and pick holes in it, okay? You sound certain that you saw my client and the victim. How were you so sure it was them?
Well, Flintheart McCoy and his daughter were well known within the town. Flintheart made himself quite well known in the region through his social activism. And young Celeste dresses in a manner that is far wealthier than the townsfolk of Cornhaven.
Do you live in the same town as the McCoys? How would you know about this?
Well, I don't live there, but my work brings me there quite frequently.
The witness's place of residence has no bearing on his testimony. What matters is that he was there when the murder occurred. Why is Steelwind deflecting questions about his personal life? She removed her sword from Flintheart's chest, indicating... And as he slowly turned himself to face her, we know he didn't move. She stabbed him in the front, so we'll just press him on this to begin with. So you're saying that my defendant stabbed him twice with her sword?
Yes, it's exactly what I saw.
But there's only one visible wound on the body. If what you say is true, then that means she stabbed him through the same wound. Isn't that extremely improbable? Improbable, but not impossible. It is strange, I'll give you that. But nevertheless, that's what the witness saw happen. She's really reaching with this. You won't get anywhere unless you can prove that he's lying. She soon realised that I had witnessed her heinous crime. She let the body fall to the ground and fled the scene. Okay, we'll press him on that anyway. And you let her get away?
Oh, I'm just a civil carriage driver. I have no way of combating an armed assailant.
The witness also saw the defendant using magic. Did you honestly expect a chauffeur to subdue an armed mercenary?
You suppose that she has a point there. He must have come up with a detailed story beforehand and wrote it down. His little quirk of writing down everything is the perfect cover for him to read over his notes. I guess it would be hard to catch him lying if he's a way to keep his story straight. Actually, it's just the opposite. With all those details, it would be that much easier to find an inconsistency. You just need to find out which detail is incorrect. Yeah, so let's go first to the lighting that evening, which we know is incorrect. So we'll present a bit about the broken power cell.
Objection!
Mr. Rudolph, you testified that you saw my client murdering the victim, and you supposedly saw her casting magic while doing so.
Yes, I can never forget such a grisly sight. That moment was burned into my memory.
I see. Well, it's funny that you say that.
How so?
Because your entire testimony was a complete lie.
What?
Are you accusing the witness of perjury? Surely you know that such an accusation can't be made lightly, Mr. Cuthbert.
My accusation is far from baseless, Prosecutor Steelwind. Take a look at this report. The dining room lights are artificery devices that are powered by an arcane power cell. However, that same arcane power cell was broken during the time of the murder. The dining room lights had no energy, and the room would have been pitch black. The witness couldn't have seen anything, much less a homicide.
Wait, I can explain.
There's no need, witness. You could have easily seen another source of light. Perhaps one of the McCoys lit a candle because of the blackout.
The witness clearly described a source of blue light. A candle or lantern wouldn't emit a colour like that.
Then the witness was clearly mistaken.
The witness records everything he sees in his notebook. He even remembers the exact times that each event occurred. So why would he be incorrect about such a clear and obvious detail?
Rhubarb.
No, what the witness saw was clearly some form of magic. And due to the lack of power, it couldn't have been artificery. It must have been an arcane spell.
Well, that's it. What is it, witness?
Well, I must have made an incorrect assumption. Please allow me to revise my testimony.
Yeah. What do you think of this, Prosecutor Steelwind?
If the witness wants to revise his testimony, then I see no harm in obliging him.
And you, Mr. Cuthbert?
If he thinks he saw something different, then it's only fair to hear him out. You'll tear through each of his lies no matter what he does.
I remember now. Yeah, yesterday it was revealed that Flynnart was killed using magic. I must have seen Flynnart's daughter channeling a magic spell. The spell was called Mage Blade, am I correct? That's it, the blue glow I saw must have been created by Mage Blade. I see. So the blue light that you saw came from the defendant's magic. Mr. Cuthbert, you may proceed with your cross-examination.
With pleasure. Now, let's have a look at that spell, because on the spell card it's a yellow light. Here we go. The object emits a yellow radiant glow, so it's got to be this. He's saying it's a blue light. It's not. It should be a yellow light.
Objection!
Mr. Rudolph, you don't know much about magic, do you?
Well, of course not. Are you trying to say that I should have recognised Celeste's Mage Blade?
No, I admit that you probably wouldn't know about Mage Blade. But that's exactly where your mistake was.
My mistake?
Mr. Rudolph, if you were aware of how Mage Blade works, then you should know that the spell emits a yellow radiant glow. Which means the blue glow you saw couldn't possibly have been Mage Blade.
This is ridiculous. I'll grant you that the witness clearly remembers seeing a blue glow. But what significance could such a minor detail have?
It's extremely significant, Prosecutor Steelwind. If the witness did see a blue magical glow, then he must have witnessed another spell at the scene.
Preposterous. You don't have any evidence to back up that claim.
That blue light made a large impression on the witness. He wrote it down in his book, and he specifically mentioned the colour. There's no way he would have been mistaken about something like that. So, what did you really see, Mr. Rudolph? Did you see my client at the scene, casting a spell that she couldn't possibly cast? Or did you see another mage at the scene?
Well...
Your Honor, the defense has no right to accuse the witness like this. Let me remind you that perjury is a crime, Mr. Rudolph. If you are found to have lied in your testimony, you will be prosecuted.
No, wait, please.
Now, that is quite enough of that. Garrick Pierce suddenly steps down from the gallery and walks to the witness stand. He's breaking every possible rule in the book, but no one in the room moves to stop him. The bailiff looks to the judge nervously, but the judge narrows his eyes and carefully watches Pierce. Pierce, meanwhile, shoves the still flustered Rudolph off of the stand and begins addressing the courtroom. What is he even doing here? I will not stand by while you harass my servant. Pierce, we discussed this. There is no need for you to take the stand. And what, pray tell, did they discuss? Nonsense, I have nothing to hide. If you had done your job properly, I wouldn't have needed to intervene. For the first time, Steelwind doesn't seem to have control of the situation.
What is the meaning of this, Miss Steelwind? Who is this man?
This is Garrick Pierce, Your Honour. That is Lord Garrick Pierce to you, Steelwind. I am the honourable heir to the Pierce noble house. In any case, I must apologise. I'm afraid that these misunderstandings are entirely my fault.
What do you mean?
You see, Rudolph wasn't the one who witnessed the crime that fateful night. It was me. I was the one who witnessed the crime. I had my driver report the body so that I could remain anonymous. What? Are you saying that you had Rudolph lie for you? I simply dictated to him what I saw and had him repeat that to law enforcement. It simply wouldn't do for a member of the nobility to appear publicly in court.
Lord Pierce, regardless of your intentions, this is a very clear act of perjury.
But from the look on the judge's face, you can easily tell that he won't face any actual consequences. I understand, and I will accept the consequences of that. But I would be remiss if Rudolph's shoddy testimony allowed that girl to escape her crimes. Please let me testify as to what I saw that night.
Very well. This is highly irregular, but I believe the court will benefit from hearing your testimony. However, know that this misconduct has hurt your credibility.
Very well. New witness testimony. On the night of the murder, I found myself unable to sleep, so I went on a leisurely carriage ride around Cornhaven. I happened to be passing by the McCoy Tavern when I heard a loud commotion from within the building. Curious, I stopped my carriage and took a single step inside the establishment. Then I saw the scene inside. I saw the defendant stabbing that poor man twice with her sword. Garrick Pierce, he's a member of the nobility. That means that he's probably a mage, right? And he's the only other mage that was there that night. Does that mean... There's no doubt about it. He's the only person that could have left a trace of transmutation on the body. He has to be the mage we're looking for. Sorry, this must be a lot for you right now. Don't worry about me. Focus on taking him down. Okay, let's have a look at this. So let's press him on every statement to begin with. So on the night of the murder, I found myself unable to sleep, so I went on a leisurely carriage ride around Cornhaven. That seems like a strange way to pass the time. Not that you believe him for a second. The witness's eccentricities are beside the point. What matters is that he was clearly at the scene. I wouldn't quite put it that way, but nevertheless. I happened to be passing the tavern when I heard a loud commotion. I'm guessing this commotion was the argument between my client and the victim. One would conclude that, yes. As we all know, both of them became quite loud during their argument. It's not unreasonable to say the witness heard them from his carriage. Curious, I stopped my carriage and took a single step inside the establishment, then I saw the scene inside. If he was at the tavern entrance, that would mean he was here, yes. Legit. Yeah, Flynn had but that's impossible. He wouldn't have had proper lighting, yes. You saw the entire scene from the tavern entrance. It would be quite dark, considering that the lights weren't operational, even if my client was using Mage Blade at the time. Ah, of course. I'd forgotten that detail. I couldn't see what was happening, so I used my magic to illuminate the scene. You used magic at the crime scene? Yes, I remember it clearly. I conjured a blue light to illuminate the scene. That same blue light must have been what my driver saw. I thought that Rudolph didn't witness the crime at all. If I had to guess, Mr. Rudolph must have seen the blue light from the carriage. He must have made that detail a part of his testimony earlier. That actually makes a lot of sense now that you think about it. Rudolph was so sure that he saw a blue light, it would be strange if he was lying about that. But anyway, what spell did you use to illuminate the crime scene?
It was the Conjure Light spell.
Luxo. Gesture none, duration for an hour. That could be key. For the duration of the spell, a mote of magical light appears in the caster's hand. The colour of the light is chosen by the caster and can be changed at will for the spell's duration. The mote of light provides illumination up to 15 feet of the caster, so that's going to be important, and no further. Your Honour, if the witness used magic at the crime scene, then I'd like for his spell compendium to be added to the court record. I see no reason to invade the witness's privacy over a trivial illumination spell.
Yes, I agree. The defense would need a stronger reason to requisition the witness's spell compendium. Right you are, Your Honor. Your wisdom is truly fitting of your station.
Oh, shut up. Okay, let's press him on. This is the new statement, so let's just press him on this. Casting a spell seems like a pretty significant detail to forget.
For you, maybe. But for a practiced mage like myself, using magic is as natural as moving my arm.
You admit that you wouldn't know what it's like to be a mage. Saw the defendant stabbing the poor man twice. Press. And I assume that you're going to say she stabbed him from opposite sides each time?
Of course. Mind you, I have no idea why she would act like that. But I can prove that she didn't do Can you prove that she didn't do exactly what I described?
I suppose not. At least not yet, anyway. Pierce is definitely the real murderer. This means there has to be a lie somewhere in his testimony. He keeps saying that he stood at the entrance the entire time. If he killed my father, then he would have been further in. Right. Is there any way you can prove that he was further inside the building? Yes, so let's go on to the Conjure Light. So we're going to present the updated map, which, as we know, each of these is 5 feet. So that's 1, 2. I mean, there's 20 feet in between those two dots, so it's going to be greater than 20 feet. So we'll present the evidence. Lord Pierce, you said that you illuminated the scene from the tavern entrance, and you only took a single step into the building.
Of course. I remember it very clearly. I stood only at the entrance.
In that case, I'd like for you to take a look at the map of the tavern. If we take a look at this map, that would place you right here where the W is. Am I correct?
Of course I was. I do not know what you wish to achieve by having me repeat that fact.
Well, I find it interesting that you illuminated the crime scene from all the way back there, considering that Conjure Light only illuminates an area within 15 feet.
What?
The spell's range is irrelevant. We've already established that the victim would have been illuminated by Mage Blade. During his testimony, Lord Pierce clearly stated that he couldn't see what was happening. That's why he cast Conjure Light in the first place. However, Conjure Light doesn't work like a normal source of light. It only provides illumination up to 15 feet of the caster and no further. If he had stayed at the entrance, his spell wouldn't have done anything to help illuminate the scene.
But what does this mean? Lord Pierce, did you illuminate the crime scene or not?
Well, I can answer that question for you, Your Honour. Lord Pierce did illuminate the scene of the crime scene. He illuminated because he was standing right where it happened.
Mr. Cuthbert, are you trying to say that Lord Pierce was close to where the murder occurred? How would that be possible?
Well, there's only one way this scenario would make sense, Your Honour. And that would be if Garrick Pierce was the one who murdered Flintheart McCoy. Rhubarb, rhubarb.
Hold on a moment. This is absurd. I could have easily used a different spell to illuminate the room.
And which spell would that be, Pierce?
The name escapes me. I'm not sure which one it was now that I think about it.
You idiot. Well, maybe we can figure it out together when you relinquish your spell compendium to the court.
What? This is a clear violation of my privacy. Steelwind, why aren't you objecting to this?
If you had listened to my instructions, you wouldn't be in this situation. You've made your bed, now lie in it.
Steelwind, you treacherous... That's enough. It appears that the prosecution has no objections. With everything that has occurred, I must ask that Lord Pierce relinquish his spell compendium to the court.
Garrett Pierce's spell compendium contains the formulas for the following spells. Prestidigitation, which is kind of to affect quite small objects. In D&D terms, you could use it to clean an item or make it smell or taste of something slightly different. Conjure light, conjure water, it's probably self-explanatory. Frost wave, which I suspect is probably the murder spell, and shape liquid. Here we go. Prestidigitation. Snap of the fingers, the caster casts a simple and harmless visual effect around their hand. This effect will last for as long as they maintain concentration on the spell. Conjure water. Causes water to magically flow out of the caster's hand. This water will flow as long as the caster maintains concentration on the spell. Frost wave. Anything caught within its range is hit with a blast of extremely cold air. Liquids hit will be immediately frozen, and organic life will immediately enter stages of hypothermia. Interesting. Shape liquid. While concentrating the spell, the caster can magically manipulate it up to 10 litres of liquid and form it into complex shapes. At any time, the caster can choose to freeze the liquid and solidify its current shape. While frozen, the caster can also choose to make the liquid instantaneously melt. So maybe he did this. Like, from the back. So, yeah, maybe. Good job, Tyrion. We got his spell compendium. With that, this case is as good as yours. Or is it? She didn't even try to stop you from taking his spell compendium. She wouldn't let that happen just to spite Lord Pierce. She definitely still has something up her sleeve. Your Honour, I've looked at the spells in Lord Pierce's compendium. Conjure Light is the only spell that he can cast that would indeed shed a blue light. This renders his testimony and many of his statements false. Ah! You can practically hear Lord Pierce grinding his teeth. Your Honour, Lord Pierce could very well be a suspect in the murder of Flynn Hart McCoy. The defence argues that this presents enough reasonable doubt to acquit the defendant.
I acknowledge that Lord Pierce's actions are quite suspect. However, I will not pass a verdict just yet. There is much more we need to learn.
What? That's not how it works. We proved that there's very reasonable doubt. That should be enough to acquit me, right? Yeah, in a normal case maybe, but it's different for this trial. The public won't accept an unsolved homicide involving magic. Unless we can unequivocally prove your innocence, the court will keep drawing out this case. What? But that's not fair. It's just how the system works. Our court system doesn't exist to exact justice. It exists so that the kingdom can save face. No.
However, the court will be suspending the trial of Celeste McCoy until further notice. That is, until Lord Pierce can be investigated as a possible suspect.
Objection!
A possible suspect? The very idea of that is preposterous, Your Honour. Damn it, you knew she was planning something. Let's revisit the basic facts of this case, shall we? Flynn Hart McCoy was murdered using a blade with a transmutation spell active on it. Mr. Cuthbert, why did you tell me the spells that Lord Pierce knows? All right. The spells are Prestidigitation, Conjure Light, Conjure Water, Frost Wave, and Shape Liquid. You've realised it too, haven't you? Lord Pierce doesn't know any transmutation spells that can be channeled through a solid object? What? That can't be right.
You're right. You're absolutely right, Lady Steelwind. I couldn't have possibly committed the murder. I see. With that in mind, I would leave the defendant as the only possible killer.
But he was the only other mage there. He has to be the real murderer. But he doesn't know any transmutation spells that can affect a solid object. We can't prove that he stabbed him while casting magic. Wait a minute. How did he do it then? She's right. How did he do it? I think he maybe froze some wine or beer or maybe even that lotus juice that was in the bottle and used that to stab him. And then he melted the ice and the weapon disappeared. That's what I think happened. If there are traces of transmutation magic on the wound, then Flynn Hart was definitely stabbed by something magical. But none of his transmutation spells can affect a steel blade. Does that mean that he used something else?
The defence did cast some doubt on this witness's testimony. Nevertheless, I must conclude that he could not have possibly committed the murder. With that in mind...
Please wait, Your Honour. We still can't conclude that Lord Pierce couldn't have committed the crime.
What are you on about? Lady Steelwind said it herself, you commoner.
I don't know any spells that can be channeled through a metal blade.
He's right, which can only mean one thing. You didn't use a metal blade, did you?
What nonsense is this? The autopsy report clearly stated that the wound was created by a blade. If he didn't channel magic through a blade, how could he have possibly committed the crime?
Yes, your claim seems quite contrary to the facts thus far, Mr. Cuthbert.
Ah, which spell did he use?
Which spell could Lord Pierce have possibly used to kill the victim?
I think it was... Oh, here we go. So the only two for me are Frost Wave. Anything caught within range is hit with a blast of extremely cold air. Liquids hit will be immediately frozen. Organic life... Let's have a look at the autopsy. Doesn't say anything about hypothermia, so this one. So he can magically manipulate liquid and transform it into complex shapes. At any time, he can choose to freeze the liquid and solidify its current shape. While frozen, the caster can also choose to make the liquid instantaneously melt. So I'm going to present this one. You see, Your Honour, Garrick Pierce didn't kill the victim using a sword. He killed him using an object shaped exactly like a sword. What?
I'm afraid I don't quite understand, Mr. Cuthbert.
I'd like for the court to look at Lord Pierce's spell compendium. Garrick Pierce knows a seemingly insignificant spell called Shape Liquid. With it, he can control a body of water and shape it into any complex shape he wants. Then he can freeze that liquid, maintaining its current shape. Shaped like a sword.
What? No! Is it possible that he...
What do you have to say for yourself, Lord Pierce?
What do I have to say?
Lord Pierce's breathing becomes more frantic. He's clearly not used to being put in a corner like this. You can see his stress and frustration emanating through the eye of Horus. You have him now. Time for the finishing blow.
Argument. I'll tell you exactly what I have to say, you commoner. I'm not the one on trial here. We're here because that bastard child didn't know her place. She's just a peasant, yet she still learned the arcane arts. And look what happened.
I saw the murder, I witnessed everything.
The girl used our holy arts to murder her father in a fit of rage.
So is the map the thing here? Like he couldn't have seen it because of the light level? Is that so? I saw the murder, I witnessed everything. So it's this, yeah? And how, pray tell, did you see everything? If you recall, you testified that you only took a single step inside the inn, but you would have needed to be within 15 feet to see my client with conjure light.
This again? You're going to keep treading on that one detail, and I admit it. I stepped further into the inn. I kept that detail out of my testimony. All because I knew that you'd use it to cast suspicion on me. Lord Pierce!
But you didn't just keep that detail from your testimony, did you? You testified the opposite. That makes you guilty of committing perjury.
No! Ah, you miserable wretch.
Garrick Pierce has openly admitted to committing perjury in the courtroom. His lies haven't gone unnoticed. And let's not stop there. For your story to be true, you would have needed to be within 15 feet of my client. According to your testimony, my client had just finished committing a murder. Wouldn't she have noticed you? If you were that close, then you would have surely been close enough to apprehend her. So why didn't you? Don't you have a duty to your citizens?
Shut up, your dirty peasant mouth. That woman was armed. I had no reason to put my life in danger.
She was wielding her sword after the murder.
I was terrified when I saw her holding that bloody sword. My life was in danger.
Is it the picture? Because it shows the sword buried in the victim, yeah? But that can't be right, can it, Lord Pierce? This photo of the crime scene shows that the sword was left in the victim's body. How could she still be wielding her sword if she'd left it there?
What? Ah, damn you! Damn you! Steelwind, why aren't you saying anything?
What? Prosecutor Steelwind has lost her usual air of confidence. You find it strange, though. Even when you had the advantage, she always maintained her usual poise.
Lord Pierce, please pull yourself together. How can I remain calm when this charlatan is trying to frame me? This is a complete travesty of our justice system.
I
came here to reveal the truth and testify against that criminal.
What do I get instead? Slander from some lowly defense attorney.
I came here to reveal the truth and testify against that criminal. So it's got to be his perjury, right? You talk about justice, but you've committed several acts of perjury to twist the outcome of this trial. You're clearly not acting in good faith. Ugh. You don't care about justice, you just want to further your agenda. So admit it, Pierce. You created a makeshift sword using shaped liquid, and you used it to impale Flynnhart. You shoved my client's sword into the wound while the remnants of the real murder weapon evaporated. It was a perfect crime, wasn't it? What?
Lord Pierce? My apologies, Your Honor. It's just that I realized something absolutely hilarious.
What, has he finally lost his mind?
The defense put forward an interesting theory, but there's one problem with it.
And what's that?
I think you said it yourself.
You shoved Celeste's sword into the wound while the remnants of the real murder weapon evaporated. It was a perfect crime.
You see, it would have been a perfect crime, because any evidence to support that theory would have evaporated with that frozen blade.
What?
No.
He's right. If he used an ice blade to kill Flynnhart, it would have evaporated by now. Then that means
there would be nothing left of the murder weapon. You've spun quite the tale here today, but in the end you don't have a shred of evidence to support it, do you? You have nothing on me.
Isn't there anything we can do? You become quiet.
Tyrion?
Why isn't he saying anything? Is it really hopeless? But all it takes is one look at the expression on your face. Any worries she has instantly disappear, because she realizes the expression on your face is the same expression you made every time you defeated her.
What is this? You can glare at me all you want. It won't change the fact that you've lost.
I despise people like you.
Huh?
You twist the system to serve your own ends. You trample on the lives of innocent people. But as long as I'm here, I will never let that happen again.
Naught can remain concealed.
Empowered eye. Hello. Oh, what did I just do? Your head feels like it's about to burst. The pain is unbearable and overwhelming. But at the same time, you feel an extreme sense of clarity. As if you can see more than you could before. I can't believe that peasant pushed me this far. Once again, you see Pierce's thoughts through the eye of Horus. But this sensation feels different from how it usually is. It's more intense and potent this time. It's almost as if you can do more than just read his surface-level thoughts. You've activated the empowered eye. With it, you'll be able to do more than see the witness's thoughts. You'll also be able to affect what they think about. Project items into Pierce's mind to evoke thoughts from him. You'll want to project items that make him think about the murder. Evoking the right thoughts will raise your insight. Once the insight gauge is filled, you'll have everything you need to implicate him. Get him thinking about the murder. Well, what about, Get him thinking about the murder. But what about the spell that he used?
After all the trouble I went to, I can't believe that lawyer figured out the spell I used. Well, no matter. It's not as if there's any evidence to prove that I used it. I'm lucky that old fool had that bottle of water with him.
Water from a bottle? Wait, a bottle?
Well then, as riveting as this has been, I believe it's time for me to take my leave.
Now, wait a minute, Pierce.
Oh, what is it now, you wretch? I'll say it as many times as you need to hear.
There is no evidence of a liquefied weapon at the crime scene, except this. You're right, Pierce. If you did use shaped liquid on a body of water, the murder weapon would have evaporated entirely.
Ah, it seems you've finally gotten that fact through your thick head. Bravo.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves, Pierce. What if you didn't use shaped liquid on a body of water? What if it was another type of liquid?
What are you going on about?
Pierce, shaped liquid doesn't just work on water. It works on all kinds of liquids. This shattered bottle contained the liquid that you cast your spell on, didn't it? You show him the picture of the shattered bottle of lotus juice. The bottle. Pierce, I found this shattered bottle on the ground near the victim's body. I wonder what caused it to shatter. You must have decided to use any liquid you could find. Luckily for you, the victim was holding the perfect quantity of liquid in his hands. I wonder, Lord Pierce, if we had somebody analyse the broken pieces of this bottle, would we find traces of transmutation magic?
You little... Oh, that still proves nothing. So what if there are traces of magic on the shattered bottle? You still don't have a murder weapon?
I wasn't finished, Pierce.
What?
You see, the liquid contained in this bottle wasn't water. It was soda.
So, what difference does that make?
A blade of ice made out of water would have evaporated entirely. But a blade of ice made out of soda would leave a puddle of dried residue. That's why it was reflective of the ground. I did wonder about that.
No, it can't be.
I'd wondered why there was such a circular trace of magic under the body. If we checked the outline of that trace, I'd bet we'd find a dried puddle of soda residue. That would prove you used your magic on that soda. There's your murder weapon, Pierce. And that's checkmate. Bailiff, tell Oren to analyse the crime scene at once. We must determine if this puddle of soda residue exists. The time window to try and find traces of magic is closing.
So, we had our team search the crime scene for that soda puddle. I really can't believe it, but we found it. In fact, the outline of the dried soda lines up exactly with the outline of the trace of transmutation magic. We checked the broken bottle, too. There were traces of transmutation magic on it as well. There's no doubt about it. Someone used magic on that soda.
I see. Thank you, Oren. Please escort Lord Pierce back to the stand. What do you have to say for yourself, Pierce?
What do you think you've accomplished here today? Do you honestly think you can indict me? I am an aristocrat from the highest echelons of our society. That fool of a man was an insurgent. He was a threat to society, and I did my civic duty by removing him.
Objection!
Bailiff, please escort the witness to a holding cell.
Steelwind?
First-degree murder is punishable by execution, Lord Pierce. I suggest you remain silent, lest you incriminate yourself further.
What? You can't be serious.
Shut your insidious mouth.
Ugh.
Well, what are y'all waiting for? Take him away.
Yes, take him away at once.
I can't believe it, we actually won. Tyrion, It's all she can do to hold back her tears. You don't need to say anything. Your face says it all.
Oh, thank you. You've more than exceeded my expectations today.
Miss Tamora,
I'll be honest. When I realized that the murder weapon evaporated, I thought that the case was shot. I can't believe you were able to turn that around.
no, it was just luck. If he had used water, we would have been done for.
It had nothing to do with luck. You were able to deduce what liquid he had used. And you did it just by looking at a few shards of broken glass. Your skills of deduction never cease to amaze me.
That's not exactly true. But with Celeste there, you can't tell her about your new ability. You're all quite lively. There's no need for such hostility. Though I wouldn't expect any less from the Hound of the Eye Taker.
Huh?
Wait, what does she mean by that? You glance at Miss Tamora, but when she meets your gaze, she immediately looks away. She looks like she's, focusing. Almost as if to protect herself from a certain eye. I must admit, I was hoping to test my blade against you directly. However, your protege proved to be a worthy adversary. Thank you?
Is this some kind of game to you? You talk about trials as if there's some kind of competition. Your action almost condemned an innocent woman to death.
Our system operates by having two powers of opposition. When those powers are balanced, justice prevails. Make no mistake, your victory today was just our system working as intended.
Ha! Working as intended. You know very well our system only exists to protect your people.
I know. What? In any case, it looks like we'll be facing each other more frequently in the future. I look forward to doing battle with you again, Tyrion Cuthbert.
Strange girl.
Oh, well, that kind of killed the mood, didn't it? Not at all. I think we should celebrate. Oh, what did you have in mind? There's this amazing restaurant in the upper quarter of the capital city. They usually only serve nobles, but they let anyone in if they have enough gold.
Wait, do we have enough gold?
Of course we do. Don't worry about details. I'll handle everything.
Wait, just how much money does Mr. Mora make? And so began my journey into the world of law and magic. Our justice system is rotten to its core, and I'll have many trials ahead. Regardless, I'll keep fighting on and get justice for every one of my clients.
Episode end.
I think we did all right there. What's this? This feeling, I knew it. His radiant soul has finally awakened. Can't believe it, I've been waiting for so long. Can't wait for the day when I can see his eyes draped in agony. Okay, that was possibly leading into the next case. Just quickly check the time in the video. We're coming up to 3/4 of an hour. That's probably enough. I'm definitely going to play more. Probably going to play all the cases, I would think, in this playthrough. But we'll leave it there for now, just before heading into the second case. We can actually... do I do it from new game? Yeah, I guess I do. So we'll be doing The Walking Dead next time. Not the famous TV show. But yeah, that's the one we'll do next time. So I'll just say thanks very much for watching this first case of Tyrion Cuthbert, Attorney of the Arcane. I enjoyed it a lot. As I said earlier on, I did enjoy the Phoenix Wright games, particularly the courtroom drama and stuff. It's always quite fun, the different directions it takes. This one felt... some of the Phoenix Wright ones, particularly I think in the... not maybe so much the first game, but subsequent ones, they sometimes got a bit unclear. You'd have a situation presented like trying to disprove a statement from a witness, and it wouldn't necessarily be entirely clear what the game was asking you to produce. I found that a few times, but in this I thought it was quite logical. I didn't really stumble on any of those solutions. It just felt like, okay, it's asking that question, and this solves that question, so we use that, and it did, which is quite cool. I'm interested to know what would happen if you got it wrong. Probably you just get another chance to do it. In Phoenix Wright, I think most of the games, probably all of them, you'd have like a live system, so you could only get so many wrong answers within a trial before it was game over, effectively, which was always quite hard. There was always quite a lot of pressure then to make sure that you'd got the right piece of evidence or whatever. Which, as I said, was compounded by the fact that it was sometimes unclear what the game was actually asking of you. But it felt pretty clear here. I enjoyed that. Hopefully you did too. If you did enjoy this episode, if you could hit that thumbs up button, that'd be great. Be sure to leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought about this first case, the resolution to it, the various characters, the scenario, anything you like, really. It's just always great to hear your thoughts. And yeah, look forward to seeing you as well for case 2 and hopefully beyond. So just remains for me to say thank you very much for watching once again. And I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.